Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to this special Wednesday edition of the Monday Majlis. And I'm going to introduce Bianca, who is going to introduce Zahra, because it was Bianca's idea to invite her, and she told me that, and she is going to lead today's session. So if you go to the website of the CSI, and you go to check the immensely long list I compiled of our PhD students and those who finished, then you will find Bianca's thesis there, which is on the conceptualization of power in the thought of Muhammad Hussain Fadlallah. And but she is not our doctoral student anymore. She is now our research fellow, American research fellow in Exeter, and her research is on nature and environmental ethics in Islamic thought. So and her specialism, which you can also check on our website, on the same CSI website if you go to the researchers. And her specialties are political theories and environmental ethics in Imami Shiite Islam, Muslim-Christian dialogue in the Middle East, contemporary Eastern Christianity. Now, this section is not a big secret that it will be on the environmental thought and indeed practice of Zahra. Yes. Please, Bianca.
Okay, thank you very much. So, yes, my interest is covers the theory and practice of Islamic ethics regarding the environment and environmental consciousness and stewardship. And thanks to a late recent visit to Karbala, I got in touch with a group of people who are organizing the next Arbaeen pilgrimage to and a conference in August there. And through this network, I found Zahra, and as Istvan might have mentioned, the majority of the lectures in this online series have featured research findings from scientific studies related to Arab and Islamic studies. So today is an exceptional session because our speaker today will pioneer by presenting a remarkable practical initiative, a great example of fusing civic consciousness and faith in promoting ecological stewardship. Zahra Ali Syed is based in Karachi, Pakistan. She has been working as an environmental journalist and sustainability consultant. She has created an advocacy platform called the Green Pilgrim, which promotes eco-friendly religious tourism to Iraq. She established a platform called the Learning Garden, conducts programs in schools. She is doing research on human resilience in climate change, based on local people's indigenous knowledge. Her endeavors revolve around the importance of nature as a source of mental and physical welfare and the ensuing human responsibility to protect it. Her activities include teaching, advocacy, and research in Pakistan, Iraq, and beyond. So without further ado, I would like to ask Zahra to start her presentation. First, introduce yourself in as much detail as you feel relevant for this topic, and how you got in touch with this field, and then in more detail about your project or one of your projects. So please, Zahra, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. It's an honor to be part of this Majlis sessions. And I think you have pretty much covered my introduction. Just to add, I am Karachi-based environmentalist and sustainability consultant. I'm also a graduate in media ethics and social change from University of Sussex. And now I'm about to start my PhD. Um, my main interest has always been related to climate communications. And if I just focus on my work in Iraq today, so Iraq, specifically Karbala and the holy city of Najaf, these two cities are my spiritual center. So I go there very frequently. And as I go there, I interact with local communities. Just to give you an idea, in the past 10 years, I've visited Iraq over 20 times, mainly for my own spiritual reasons, but also after 2014, it became more personal. I started engaging with the local communities there, started learning about their issues and their stories and things that we never learned through the mainstream media. So as a journalist, I was very curious, and that's when I started looking at the environmental challenges around pilgrimage and how disconnected we are with this information, and how even the climate scientists, um, they do not even include the data sets from Iraq, especially all war-torn countries. So today, I'll specifically talk about my journey to Iraq and how this environmental movement began. So let me quickly share my screen with you so that we can start working. So this initiative is called the Green Pilgrim. It's an advocacy platform to promote sustainable Arbaeen. Now, question may arise that what is Arbaeen? I hope most of you know, but Arbaeen is a historic event, is a commemoration of the 40th day after the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, who was the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Each year on this day, pilgrims travel from all around the world. They come from over 80 countries and 25 cities of Iraq. Most of them travel by foot, and it can take them days and weeks to reach the holy city of Najaf, where they gather, and then they take an 80-kilometer route to the holy city of Karbala, where this journey concludes. On their way, there are hundreds and thousands of mawqib, or the camps that welcome them to rest, to take a break, to offer them food or medical services. And all of this is entirely non-commercial event. It's entirely volunteer-led. There's a lot of charity work happening, a lot of volunteerism happening. So imagine if on this small route of 80 kilometers, millions of pilgrims are converging at this point and consuming food and goods, then imagine the amount of plastic waste that's created. But the situation here was a bit more complex, and I'll share that in a while. Over here are some images to give you an idea what this journey looks like for people. So they are traveling from cities as far as Basra, which is around 500 kilometers away from the holy city of Najaf. It takes them many days to reach the holy city of Najaf on foot. Some of them come from Iran, even they cross the border, and the journey can be as long as 600 kilometers on foot. They travel through the deserts and cities, and also there are a lot of spaces are also not very safe in terms of security, but they take this route anyways, and it is considered a part of their spiritual spiritual journey to go through this journey on foot. As soon as they arrive near the holy cities, the main holy cities or the major cities of Iraq, they find lots and lots of camps there set up by local communities to welcome these pilgrims. These are local pilgrims and foreign pilgrims who find these resting places where they are offered food, medical supplies, all kinds of care, and they can rest here for as long as they like. They don't have to pay for these spaces. All of this is free. The bottom images are from the holy cities themselves, where all of these people are actually joining in, and it becomes really crowded. It's a very it's a very overwhelming experience. It's a very passionate experience for these pilgrims also. And of course, with all of this comes the environmental challenges of Arbaeen. So over the years, especially after the downfall of Saddam Hussein, and then followed by the military invasion on Iraq, Arbaeen started to gain strength once again. And that is when, we see significant increase in the participation of Arbaeen, because now it was safe for people to travel. So from 2014 onwards, the numbers of pilgrims continued to increase each year. Now we're talking about millions of pilgrims who are converging at these two holy cities, staying there for about 10 days, 4 days, or 10 days. And living in these camps, living in these hotels, living at local with local families of Iraq, because everybody opens their doors to welcome these pilgrims, and they do not charge them anything. So people go there and spend as much time as they can. Some of these pilgrims are also coming in only once in a year, and they will be focused on their pilgrimage. So they will be very disconnected from the on-ground challenges of the local communities after Arbaeen, what happens after Arbaeen, how things are managed. Before Arbaeen, they will be very disconnected from all of this management and its challenges. But they will try to volunteer in some way during the pilgrimage. That's mainly how Arbaeen becomes a very successful event. So I roughly calculated that we consume about 8 to 10 cups of water each day during our pilgrimage, which adds up to over 100 plastic cups. So it was a very astonishing number for me, and that's where my curiosity began, that what does it really add up to? So Iraq and water has a very unique connection. The whole story of Imam Hussein alayhi salam also revolves around the absence of water. And also in today's time, Iraq is suffering from water shortages. So it's a very interesting story that, Iraqi communities actually do not have access to clean drinking water. If you open their tabs, the water is going to be brown colored, it will be smelly. You can't drink that water, it's not safe for you. So they are dependent on buying packaged water. So during Arbaeen, you will find these people, children and men and women, offering you these very clean, cold water cups to you. It's a sign, it's a good gesture from them. It's a sign of hospitality, sign of service. So they're being polite. They're offering you something very precious, very clean, and offering this to you for free, just to gain that spiritual gain that spiritual meaning and benefits by doing this gesture. So on the other hand, Iraqi rivers are heavily contaminated at this point, mainly because of the war. And then after war, it took them a while to establish their political systems. They're still struggling with gaining access to basic healthcare, or to provide basic a good quality education to their population who has missed their school and colleges during this unsettled political situation in Iraq for decades. So environmental issues, or the knowledge about environment, it was absent a few years back. Now we see there's a lot of conversations happening around it. Local researchers are also coming up with new researches each year. They've initiated some dialogue and providing some solutions, but it's all at a very basic level at this point. So Iraqis also do not know that it is predicted that in 40 years there will be water poverty in Iraq. And most of these efforts by United Nations or other related agencies are focused in other parts of Iraq, in the northern Iraq, in the southern Iraq, but they're not very focused on these two holy cities. And this problem of plastic pandemic, as I call it, it's completely ignored. And the situation of Euphrates at this point is completely overlooked. And I felt that, we are really responsible for not taking any action, not doing anything. So these are some images which usually we overlook or we ignore while we are on our pilgrimage. We walk past these spaces quickly to reach the other holy city, and we feel or we assume that somebody will come and pick this plastic waste and it will be disposed of properly, because there's a lot of lack of information and there's a lot of disconnect between the pilgrims who are not familiar with Arabic language and the host Iraqis who are not familiar with English or any other language. So there's never an exchange of information beyond the basic information that you need for conducting your pilgrimage. So we often overlook these sites. But this is the reality. I stayed behind once and I looked at how our hosts who were offering us everything throughout the day, they were exhausted. They were picking up this trash, cleaning the roads. Sometimes the visitors also do that, but primarily the host families and the local communities take responsibility of this waste management. And of course, the pilgrims are coming in such a huge number that this is a very big challenge for even the local authorities. So for example, in 2018, only 5% of solid waste was actually collected by the waste management authorities. And by 2020, only I think about 20% of waste was actually recycled. Most of this waste is taken to landfills and it's burnt there. This was at least a situation before we started advocating for this. So our movement, Sustainable Arbaeen, it advocates for the plastic-free pilgrimage to Iraq. And we also try to create a demand for plastic alternatives through our online activism. And we also encourage our pilgrims to participate in offline activism by carrying their reusable bottles. This is the simplest thing that I felt we can do. Only if we carry one bottle, we can save around 100 cups, 100 plastic cups during one visit each year, which of course will decompose in over 450 years. So it was something very basic that we could do at individual levels. So we started talking about this and we started promoting this idea. But this whole idea of Green Pilgrim started off without any plan. It was entirely, it entirely happened as an accident. In 2018, I visited Iraq thrice in a year, and I saw how quickly our historic sites were being covered by plastic waste. So the image at the bottom that you see is from the most well-known and most respected graveyard of Wadi Salam in Najaf. And these are the graves of some of the most prominent scholars and very important people for our community. And there are some very important religious sites in this graveyard as well, which visitors go to. And wherever they go, there was a trail of this plastic waste and trash. This image is from 2018, December. So I saw this and I went and talked to the servants of the Holy Shrine, and I was just trying to create a map of how much plastic waste is actually used. So I learned that in one holy shrine, when it was a bit quieter, only a few hundred pilgrims were coming in every day. They were consuming over 2,000 plastic cups each day. They were refilling 2,000 plastic cups each day. So imagine on important days like Arbaeen or Ashura or any other important day, the consumption of plastic waste was unbelievable. And then there were so many other shrines, there were so many historic places, and with lack of waste management systems, it was really difficult for me to process this and to just stay quiet about this. And there was this disconnect. Pilgrims are coming to these holy shrines. They are usually restricted. Their movement is usually restricted to the areas managed by the holy shrines, which are very clean. And apparently it seems like a very perfect picture. But as soon as you leave those spaces, you go beyond the checkpoints and you actually go into the local neighborhoods, you see that these people are actually living in our trash. And it was really painful for me to look at all of this. So I sat in Karbala outside one of the holy shrines, and I recorded a video. It was just a 3-minute video. I was very shy to come on the camera. So I made a video and I only shared it with my very private group of people, in which I explained it to them how if they carry one bottle, reusable bottle, they can save so many cups, and this is at least what they can do. And that video went viral. And within 4 or 5 hours, when I reached Najaf, everybody who could speak Urdu from India, from Pakistan, they had my video on their phone, and everybody was continuously resharing this video. And I was initially very uneasy about this because I was very reluctant in posting my own photos or making videos, and this went viral everywhere. Everybody was sharing this from their platforms. But soon the Holy Shrine got in touch with me, the management. It was very exciting for me because I was nobody. I had no connections in Iraq at that time. I knew nobody. I did not make an effort. But because this video went viral, the Holy Shrines got in touch with me. And they asked me to send them detailed proposals of how they can manage this and what is actually the threat here. They had no knowledge about plastic waste and its life cycle, and and how dangerous this could be. And I, being a journalist, environmental journalist, I just needed this opportunity. So I came back to Pakistan. I started making these proposals for them. We had this language barrier also. So I got all these proposals translated into Arabic for them. And then we used to have virtual meetings, or I used to go and visit them and talk to them. And they also shared their concerns, what will work, what will not work. So it was a lot of hard work to understand their culture, understand their mindset, and work with them. And while this video went viral, now there were thousands and thousands of people tagging me, reaching out to me, asking me questions. I was not prepared for that. But this was an opportunity to create a community, to exchange ideas, to exchange knowledge, and to find solutions. I had no idea at that point what will I do with this new community. But at least the first step was to create a Facebook group where everybody came in, and they were coming in from all across the world. And it was very, very overwhelming for me to manage that, that information, that now new public space that, was created on social media. And I used to be somebody very reluctant to use social media at that point. So this was first poster that I created, and was very simple, straightforward, asking people to carry their reusable cups and bottles to avoid leaving behind any waste, which seemed like it's a very simple thing to do. But there were more challenges to it as we progress. I'll quickly give you an overview of our story, how things have progressed. Then I'll show you some of the pictures to give you an idea. And then I'll tell you a bit about our activism techniques that we have used, what has worked, what has not worked for us, and where we are at this point. And how, especially in all of our journey, the theme of Islamic environmental ethics will become very prominent as we progress. So in 2018 and 19, the Holy Shrine management took interest in this project, and they asked for suggestions, and we were very actively engaged in a dialogue at this point with them. The digital community connected well. There were lots of ideas coming in. There were volunteers initiating project ideas. Like, for example, there was somebody visiting Karachi from Dubai at that time who said that, I am well connected with tourism agencies in Karachi. There are over 200 tourism agencies. I have time, I'm retired. If you design a leaflet for me, I'll go and talk to each one of them and ask them to sign this pledge that they are not going to carry plastic with them, and they're going to provide plastic alternatives there. So these were some very passionate people who were coming in with their ideas, and he did that. He went and spoke to at least 50 of these tourism agencies who signed the pledge, and who used to have an orientation session before, taking groups from Karachi, and they used to give them reusable bottles, and this started happening immediately. So we created this charter for environmental ethics for these tourism agencies, but our movements were restricted to Karachi because this is where I was based. We also launched an ambassadors program. The ambassadors program was also entirely volunteer-led. It's still ongoing. So we selected some very passionate individuals who are well connected within their local communities from around the world, who became the bridge between us and their own communities. And they actually started having these conversations with their local communities, who were, of course, from diverse cultures. They spoke different languages. They were coming from different educational backgrounds. It was easier to communicate this idea in the Western countries than to communicate this idea in India or in Sri Lanka or in other places. Where there was also, it was very difficult to communicate the idea about environmental challenges. Then in 2020, all of our hard work was paused because now nobody could go for Arbaeen because of COVID. But this also opened up an opportunity for us to strengthen our local community networks. So our website was launched at this time, and then we started advocating more about the Islamic environmentalism, and we introduced these themes to the pilgrims and to community members. Now, because people were really longing to go to Karbala, they became more passionate about finding ways to volunteer, finding ways to serve the holy cities, finding ways to feel connected to the holy cities in some way. And this was the right time to conduct more sessions and start more conversations around the challenge of plastic in Karbala. And it was an opportunity for us to invite them to rethink Arbaeen. So our local communities and ambassadors really worked hard during those times, and some of the Islamic centers even went entirely eco-friendly. They banned plastic entirely. And we also came up with some very interesting local and very indigenous ways of doing this, because there are some Afghani communities especially who always carry their cups and bottles with them. So we started speaking to the imams of Hussainiyas and the ulama, the scholars of Hussainiyas, and who were very well connected, who understood the idea of Islamic ethics of Arbaeen, of generally living, and ethics around consumption, responsible consumption of things. And once you have a knowledge of something, then you become responsible for taking action, some basic ethics that part of our lives. But the information was sort of missing. People just did not know what Iraq is going through, what local communities are going through, and they wanted an opportunity to serve the holy cities in some way. And here they responded immediately. Otherwise, plastic waste and advocacy around it is a very big global issue. But here, in the case of Imam Hussain alayhi salam and love of Karbala, we saw that there was an immediate response of people. Now we were expanding into 2020. We had volunteers and ambassadors in all 5 continents who were working with their groups of volunteers, local volunteers, answering questions, making their local processions, local Arbaeen processions and majalis also eco-friendly. They were doing wonderful things, printing posters, raising awareness in schools. The teachers were conducting these classes at schools to promote Islamic environmentalism and the idea of sustainable Arbaeen. So it was a very good year for us in terms of spreading knowledge. The next 2 years were also very exciting because now we could actually see visible offline activism happening. Now, after a gap of almost 1.5 years, when people went back to Karbala, they were much more passionate, and many people, they were carrying their reusable bottles now, and they were taking pictures, tagging us, and it was very exciting for us, very overwhelming for us that we were actually seeing a visible difference now. There were some groups who went entirely plastic free. They carried their reusable bottles. So it was very, very inspiring to see some change happening on the ground level. And it was very visible within local communities also, where people started distributing plants instead of food in the name of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. After majalis, because it's a tradition to distribute food after the majalis, but they started distributing trees and saplings. So it was happening all around in India, in Pakistan, in Australia, in many parts of the world. Our volunteers were hosting these majalis, and it sort of became a trend. It was very good to see all of this happening. Then we also got a lot of international media coverage at that time, because of which we were able to reach out to the policymakers and stakeholders within Iraq, and it really empowered us in ways that we did not expect. Moving on, in 2023, I've written 21 by mistake, but in 23, the meetings with local stakeholders also started to happen. Now we were meeting the director generals of the Holy Shrine of Imam Ali in Najaf, and same in Karbala. We met the director of the Holy Shrine of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, along with his entire team of decision makers and experts from different departments who had very intense conversations with me. I was the only woman there, the hall full of men. I had a translator with me, but they were they gave me a lot of time, and they showed me why they can't replace plastic within the holy shrines, because the health ministry had made it compulsory for them to place plastic, but they promised that they are going to replace plastic tubs from all around the holy shrine and from the roads, wherever they are managing the spaces. And they actually did that in the coming year. So we also saw how our other volunteers were achieving lots of milestones. The Islamic centers were becoming eco-friendly. And we also reached out to an orphanage in Damascus. I visited Damascus for the first time in 2021. And over there, we established a food farm for an orphanage and started plantation drives there. We actually became part of this. So these are some images from those last years, in which you can see there was a lot of activity on social media. People were carrying their bottles, tagging us. Some mock-up hosts were also making sure that they can collect as much plastic as they can, because sadly there were no plastic alternatives available in Iraq at that point. So there were no refill stations. If people were now carrying their reusable bottles, there were no refill stations available for them, which were safe for them. So this highlighted another issue for us. So moving on, I'll share what happened in that regard soon. But these are images from our Australian community. Now, these community members come originally from Pakistan, India, Afghanistan, Lebanon, Iran, Iraq. They all go to this one Islamic center, where jointly they were able to entirely eliminate all types of plastic from their food packaging. And also they started distributing saplings, and they do this every year. Every year during Ramzan, during Muharram, during Safar, they do this regularly now. Even their children are very used to carrying their reusable bottles. And now, because they also had plastic alternatives easily available, it was easy to replace plastic for them. But changing the behavior of people before plastic was banned in Australia was something that they really worked on at that point. And if you notice on the top right image, right here, they started to write the sayings of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, that, whenever you drink water, remember me. And this whole experience of creating behavioral change became very spiritual for everybody because of these little gestures. Again, we were all volunteers. We still are volunteers. We have never raised funds. We have never been interested in branding any product, selling it, raising funds. It has always been entirely volunteer-led, and it has always been entirely driven by the love of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So it has always been a very spiritual thing for all of them to do. These images are from London, where one of the Islamic schools, our ambassador, conducts these classes for them. They create posters, they engage in conversations. They've also made a platform, a social media platform, where they speak about Islamic environmentalism. And it's very exciting to see what youth comes up with. These are images from all across the world, from Auckland, from a pilgrim was traveling from London, and then these children are from Australia. The last image is from Pakistan. These are all pilgrims traveling. They're sharing pictures, making sure that they tell others about it too. These images are also from London again, are very passionate volunteers there. Whatever activities they engage in, they make sure that they follow the theme of Sustainable Arbaeen in their Muharram gatherings. So they replaced food packaging entirely. Their food was all organic, all natural things were, present for people to benefit from. Also, the souvenirs that they distributed afterwards, they were also all meaningful gifts packed in paper bags. These were all efforts that they were making, and they were really inspiring people. These in 2022, I started meeting the officials, as I mentioned earlier. So again, you will, in all these images, you will see that I'm the only female representative there speaking to a room full of men. And when I was speaking and I was telling them about what I've seen, what plastic is doing to our holy historic sites, some of them actually used to weep that, we have not observed these things, but if visitors coming from abroad, if they are looking at this, then this must be something serious that we need to think about. They had given up on their own youth. They felt they can't communicate with them. It felt like they are not interested in environmental issues because they have so much else to worry about. So there was a lot of hopelessness within them. So in the first picture, I'm speaking to the publications department of the Imam Ali Holy Shrine in Najaf. These are all heads of different languages. And we were having a discussion on how to introduce the idea of Islamic environmentalism and ethics of Arbaeen to local population there and to visitors coming from across the world through the platform of the Holy Shrine, because that's the spiritual center for all of us. And whatever information comes from there has more meaning, has more impact. So this was the first time that they thought about connecting Islamic environmentalism with Arbaeen or pilgrimage itself. The scholar that you see here, he's from Pakistan. I did not know him, but he saw that video that went viral in 2018. And after our conversation, he went to his desk and he came back with a cup. And he said, since I saw your video, I've been carrying my reusable cup and I've not used plastic cups. So that was really encouraging for me that, okay, it did create some impact, although the problem is so huge, but at least we are trying to do what we can do. In the next picture, I'm sitting in Karbala at the Karbala Center for Research and Studies and Research. This is where all of the publications get published and printed, and it is distributed all across the world. Here, something very interesting happened. This year, they are distributing an Arbaeen manual. It's free of cost, and it's printed in many languages, and it will be distributed among the pilgrims coming in from all around the world. It was about mainly the ethics of Arbaeen, the supplications of Arbaeen, the history of Arbaeen, and other interesting facts. But I requested them to include a section on environmental ethics as well, and they did that. So I co-authored that manual, and this year it is being translated in different languages, and it's going to be distributed to pilgrims, and it's happening for the first time. So, it's really exciting for me, because when I started doing this, people used to tell me that nothing can happen in Iraq. You cannot do anything. Even very prominent speakers from Iraq who live in the West, they never believed that anything can truly happen here. So this was the year when I started reaching out to them. There were other NGOs also that benefited from our research, and they got some proposals approved by the local government. Now, these images are from Damascus, Syria. In the same year, I went to Damascus, and over there, we found this very lovely group of youth. They are all orphans. They are heavily, their lives are heavily affected by war. They were born and raised during the war. So they have very small sort of kitchen garden growing there. So we worked with them, and we got some heirloom seeds for them, and we did these plantation drives with them. And then we stayed connected, and we have designed a healing space for them, but it has not, we've just designed it. We've not started building it so far. The other images are also from other historic sites in Damascus, which are very important for us. I saw that it was all barren. Pilgrims were not coming in. So we went to a nursery, did not know their language, but with the help of Google Translate and some seeds and flowering bulbs that I was carrying from Karachi, we started growing a garden there, and then we took care of it for another year or two, and now it's still growing. In 2023, last year was very interesting for us again. We'd never expected how just speaking about it can engage investors and other experts to actually work on solutions there. So there's a lady, Fatima Trust in the UK, who has invested in a water filtration plant in Najaf, and it has increased the capacity of Holy Shrine to produce several thousands of liters of clean water for pilgrims, which means they can have more refill stations around the Holy Shrine, which will solve the problem of refilling bottles more effectively during this huge gathering. Then the other interesting thing that happened was, we have been advocating for environmental conference since 2018 with the Holy Shrines, when we sent them first proposal. And finally, last year, the first environmental conference around Arbaeen was hosted by the Holy Shrine of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, and it was attended by all the stakeholders, local stakeholders, and they actually worked on the environmental challenges. And then later, during Arbaeen, they also hosted 2 or 3 research presentations on Sustainable Arbaeen, and I also had an opportunity to present there. And this year again, they have invited us, and this year they have kept one entire day to discuss environmental problems around Arbaeen and their solutions, and scholars from all around the world are conducting their researches, and they're going to come and present there. So it's a big milestone for us again. Last year also, our network of volunteers and ambassadors expanded. I had an opportunity to visit Sri Lanka last year, and over there, we planted trees in the name of Imam Hussain alayhi salam in one of their local Hussainiyas, and we brought them on board to advocate for eco-friendly pilgrimage and practices. So again, it was really heartwarming to see their interest in this. On the other hand, our community in the Auckland also joined in. People from Iran joined in. Now, these two ambassadors, I'll try to show some of their pictures during the presentation, but they have done some remarkable work in Iran. And so far, we were very disconnected from what was happening in Iran because lack of communication with our people there. But these two activists, Sister Shima and Brother Ibrahim, they have done amazing work in Ahvaz. Now, Ahvaz is the border town of Iran. The pilgrims coming from all across Iran gather at Ahvaz, and then they cross over to Iraq for this Arbaeen pilgrimage. So Ahvaz also becomes center of plastic waste, and it becomes very difficult for them to manage. So they were also incorporating similar techniques of promoting Islamic environmentalism and asking people to wake up, because pilgrimage of Imam Hussain alayhi salam is supposed to be a source of comfort for everyone, be it birds or marine life or human beings. It should not be destructive in any way. And it was primarily this lack of information and this disconnect from the cycle of plastic products that they consume that they could not take action before, but they incorporated very interesting techniques to make sure that they reach out to them, and it really triggers that behavioral change within them. Also last year, many universities in Iran also became interested in these, and at least in 2 universities, I presented my research on Sustainable Arbaeen, and it started a new debate, a new discussion, and they were not used to this before. So on the left, you can see Sister Shima. She conducted a very wonderful series of TV shows in Iran, in Persian, speaking about the same issue. The set was so beautiful, and her work is also very inspiring. She has really motivated people to carry their reusable bottles with them, and cutlery and food boxes with them. On the other hand, on the right hand, on the top photo, you can see that more refill stations have been established, as they said that they are going to do. Now, all these refill stations across the holy shrines, they do not have plastic cups anymore. You will only find reusable cups there, and people benefit from them. They do not mind drinking from a used cup, or they carry their own cups. So there's a lot of love among pilgrims, a lot of respect for each other, a lot of feeling of, being among a family, a big family. So they are very okay with this. And people also carry their reusable cups and bottles now. On the bottom, at the bottom, you can see Masjid-e-Kufa. And over there also, they have installed these new refill stations. They have also started planting trees on the highway of Najaf to Karbala and in Kufa, which used to be very barren at that time. Also, I'm not the only one speaking about environmental issues. There are other activists from around the world as well who keep doing whatever they can. So people are generally becoming interested in investing in environmental projects in Iran. Now, our updates for this year so far is that, there's a conference, Arbaeen conference happening in August. They have dedicated one entire day to discuss environmental issues and solutions. Secondly, the Holy Shrine of Imam Hussain alayhi salam is distributing this free guide to millions of pilgrims in various languages about environmental ethics of Arbaeen. I was very fortunate to have an opportunity to co-author this. Then we have also partnered with Al-Kafil, that is the managing organization of Hazrat Abbas Holy Shrine in Karbala. And they're responsible for a lot of plantation across Karbala. They do waste management, water filtration, food production. They are into everything that pilgrims use in Karbala and beyond. So this is the first year that we partnered with them, and now we send them all the seeds that they needed. There were thousands of seeds, native seeds that they needed to grow trees, flowers, and vegetables there. So it was, and just last week I got an update that first flowers bloomed, and it was really exciting. We did not make it public. It was just so much, it just had so much joy for me. I didn't feel like sharing it with anybody, but our close group knows. So this is something that happened. And then we are also creating more conversations around this. And usually, we plan little, but so many doors open up and no new opportunities come forward that I'm not sure what we will be doing this year beyond this at this point. But inshallah, I hope everything's going to be good. Now let's speak about the Islamic environmental ethics that we focused on. So being a student of media, and who believes now that media has the power of creating positive social change. If you design that media and your message correctly, if you know your audience, and if you are very clear on what kind of social change are you looking to create. So initially, my approach was of the shaming approach, that we were showing all this trash on our social media that, look, we are responsible for this. We need to change our behavior. But then we made a shift in our approach, and now we have had many positive stories to share also, that yes, there is this problem, but the global community is coming forward and collectively solving these problems. Initially, there was no such thing to share. We could only be ashamed of what we have done to the holy cities. But now we had a lot of positive stories to share as well. And also, things that did not work for us. So collectively, we aimed at mobilizing people by giving more meaning to this activism. And this could only happen if they feel that they own these holy cities, which we say it's a very general practice that we keep looking for opportunities to serve people in the holy cities, to gain some spiritual benefits, to feel this purity within us, to help somebody there, to help a pilgrim Imam Hussain alayhi salam, to help ease them in some way, or to clean the holy shrine, or to just to make somebody smile there. We even find people who are poor, who do not have anything to offer. They just walk beside pilgrims in a way to give them shade, so they try to lift their luggage, they try to massage their foot, they try to help them in every way. So this was a general spirit of Arbaeen. So all we had to do was actually highlight the message of Imam Hussain, the message of Quran, the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that we are the guardians of this planet. And it was then from there onwards, it became really easy for us to create that collective identity and create that activism movement. So these are some of the posts from our social media that we shared last year. Now these are verses from Quran, and Allah laid out earth for all beings. So if you love Allah, you automatically love everything that He has created. You automatically you appreciate what He has created. And the more you read Quran, the more you read Tafsir, the more you feel inspired and responsible to take care of this nature, the more you see yourself as part of nature. Then I also included the sayings of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Now, because Imam Hussain alayhi salam is the center of this pilgrimage, he is the reason why people are going there in such big numbers for so many years. And so they need to know what Imam Hussain thinks about the environment, how he talks about the environment. So in his famous dua Arfa, it's all about the human body, the universe, the nature. So one of the verses from that dua says that, "Oh, He, Allah, who surfaced the earth over the water." Now, in this description, I actually connected this with the scientific knowledge, and spoke about how the earth actually surfaced over water and how deep is the meaning of this one verse. And so we collected sayings that made people look at their imams, look at their spiritual centers as means to connect with nature, as people who were not only the leaders or guardians of human beings, but also for everything that Allah created. And their love for nature reflects in these verses if you just see them differently. Besides that, we also started talking about the ground realities and started educating people about the environmental challenges. And the environmental challenges were not just that a place was looking dirty, the sea was contaminated, the birds are dying, or the marine life were dying, but it was also about the local communities that were declining, how their livelihood was being affected. And all of this was very important for pilgrims to know, because that's the basic ethic of Arbaeen or pilgrimage or for love for Imam Hussain, that we cannot be a source of discomfort for anybody. Otherwise, what have we gained through this pilgrimage? So it was just a matter of giving that perspective and translating the environmental problem, the climate change problem, into a very spiritual problem that we are facing. And it really made it easy for us to communicate the idea. Now, the ethics of Arbaeen include these 5 things, which are core of it. And I think these are also connected with the environmental ethics if you look at it. Simplicity and volunteerism. Consumption of things that you don't need is highly discouraged for your spiritual growth. A lot of comfort, entertaining yourself, being distracted during Arbaeen is highly discouraged. Eating less is encouraged. Simple food is encouraged. Avoiding meat is encouraged. Now, now everybody knows that meat is the main source of contamination of environment. So imagine, even our ethics of pilgrimage says that we need to eat less meat if we want to attain spiritual height. Also, I believe that Arbaeen is by default and very eco-friendly event, because it is about walking towards a city. It's not burning any fossil fuel. It's not going in cars. It's about walking. And naturally, it becomes very eco-friendly. Then ethical consumption of goods. Everything that you consume has to be ethical. So I connected this with the environmental challenge, and I created these posters to now our community was a bit more informed than 4 years back, so we could talk about more complex connections, and we could talk about the spirituality and nature, climate change all together in one post, so people could now actually understand these things. So these are some of the examples how we started communicating with them, giving them ideas about how to be an eco-friendly pilgrim. So there are very heartwarming sights during this walk of Arbaeen, where people are offering you free tea, free food. So if they have the food ready, all you have to do is carry your reusable bottles, a food box with you, and you can completely avoid throwing away any trash. And it makes things easier for them who will be buying these plastic disposable cups for you, or food boxes. We also take inspiration from Karbala, because again, the story of Karbala, the story of Imam Hussain is about not getting access to water. And this is something that really touches everybody's heart who is connected with Karbala. And people offer packaged water to ease something for us, to offer us something nice and pure, but the environmental challenge remains there. So this is an ongoing effort where we are continuously trying to create a dialogue, find solution. These are some of the other videos that we made to raise awareness, and there are many, many more. Moving ahead. These are just last two slides, and then I'll be concluding my presentation for today. So by the end of the day, it was all about creating this collective identity and these public spaces where we can exchange ideas, disperse knowledge. The Green Pilgrim movement emerged as an online activism platform, which was encouraging a public sphere that could go beyond our boundaries. So you will see people from India and Pakistan together walking on this journey as people from one nation. So Arbaeen itself had a lot of power to create social behavioral change, to engage in dialogue, to connect with distant communities, so with people coming from diverse backgrounds. And it was a perfect, it was also a perfect reason to do that. Because holy cities, we all are invested in holy cities, and its future is very important for us. The pilgrimage is very important for us. So whoever goes on Arbaeen pilgrimage can never imagine that one day there will be no water in Iraq. And what if our pilgrimage is actually creating more problem for local communities, is actually creating more problems in terms of having access to fresh water. And this is the right time to start making the right decisions to reversing that effect. So today, our global community is all across the world. Alhamdulillah, we have about 40 active volunteers who engage with their local communities. Of course, there is so much more that we need to do, but we have come far from where we started. And I'm really, whatever you have seen today is, it's a collective effort by many, many volunteers who took out time while studying, while raising their families, and they go out and they talk to their local communities and they create this social change within their communities. I am mainly responsible for creating the communications around it and to engage in a dialogue with local stakeholders there. And it's an ongoing effort for which we need your prayers. But these are some, this picture I especially selected for the end of the presentation because this is from Australia. And now these girls, little girls, are from Lebanon, Iran, Pakistan, India, Afghanistan. They are there. And these are the faces of our future leaders who are going to make sure that this advocacy turns into an ongoing effort, and maybe they are going to be the ones who will see Karbala as a green, sustainable city. This concludes my presentation. Thank you so much for listening to me for such a long time and for this opportunity.
Thank you, Zahra, very much for this amazing story and the case study, actually. Thank you for explaining how activism is constructed, how it starts with one idea, one person, and unfolds itself into a movement that has a significant impact and inspires basically millions all over the world. It was very interesting, both in terms of a story and also in terms of its technical details, how actually it works. And also I got this impression that shaping mindsets is only partly a question of money, because it may start with very simple things, some of which are less expensive than even the usual practices that we conduct. So I'm quite sure that we will have many questions. to you. I would start with a very general question. Actually, do you see any chance that this kind of environmental awareness becomes a kind of trend, even in countries that are struggling with many social and maybe security issues? So is there a chance to transform it into a trend, into something that that the young generation fancy doing it? And
Yeah.
yes.
See, I've been working in Pakistan for over 14 years, doing some similar things, growing organic farms, educating people about sustainable living, finding ways to reduce plastic consumption. But it has never worked this effectively as it did in this case. And I think the only difference was that people were actually invested in this space, in this pilgrimage, and it was close to their heart, and they were able to, they wanted truly to make this change. So I think in terms of designing any communication material or strategy, it is very important to know your public, who you're talking to, and why would they be interested in making this shift in their behaviors. So I think in some places this will work, in other places it will be difficult. And even for us, in some countries, it was easier to find plastic alternatives. In other places, it was not. So it was difficult to find, even if people wanted to make a shift, they did not find affordable plastic alternatives. So it opened up more challenges, and then we came up with more solutions, and it's an ongoing effort. But in terms of inspiring people, I think it's very important to know, to talk to them about what they are really passionate about and why this is going to be beneficial for them.
Yeah, thank you. If there is any question, please do use this
Bianca,
occasion to ask.
Bianca, we will. Can you see? Okay. So we will
Stop the
close.
recording. Yeah.
We will close the well, maybe the presentation, and then we will close this part and give room for questions after closing the recording. But maybe we can have still some before we do that. And I wanted to follow up on what you said, and well, thank you, and of course for inviting Zahra, and thank Zahra for this incredibly, well, everyone writes, inspiring and presentation, and less for the presentation than for everything what you do, because that's really splendid. So what I want, pilgrimage is not just about being there, but what you bring home. So as you said, well, it's about purity, and I think, well, it's splendid to see a story of a positive spiral, and this is definitely one story like this, and so this bring, and most of the consequences you will never see, because they may be at home. When the pilgrim goes home, you are not supposedly to be the same. So you bring the purity home, and the spiritual purity, and in this case, this additional plastic-free and environmental conscience as well. So do you have any ways to inspire this, or any plans to emphasize this, or it happens anyway? It will happen anyway. That's one question, and the other is I just wanted to learn more of your challenges in the way and your plans. You told that you want to do a PhD, which was kind of comforting after listening to you and questioning whether what we do in academia has anything comparable to what you do. So yeah, please.
So your first question was about, I'm sorry, can you repeat the first
Yes,
question?
it's bringing the purity home.
Yeah.
From the pilgrimage, because I think, yes, I would believe that the greatest impact you have is not, it won't be in Iraq, it will be everywhere where the pilgrims go home.
Absolutely, because pilgrimage is supposed to teach you something new, improve you. That's how it, you can say that you were successful in your journey. Otherwise, there's no entertainment in Iraq. If somebody is going for pilgrimage, this person is very serious about pilgrimage. Otherwise, it's not like other places where there will be good marketplaces or cafes where you can also, or you see, cultural activities happening. So if somebody is going to Iraq in this specific case, they are going for pilgrimage. But I felt that most of us go for our personal gains. We want to gain something spiritually, get some of the problems solved, get some thoughts aligned. But we never went there with the mindset of giving back. And because the pilgrims of Imam Hussein alayhi salam are respected so much that often people coming from other parts of the world, they feel it's their right to be respected, taken care of, because Iraqis are so generous and they will be taking care of us. And they often do not think about how they can return this favor, how they can do something in return. So I think for my own self, I think this was the turning point for me, where when I went to Iraq for the first time, it was during the war in 2014. And I did not know their language. I was traveling alone, but I did not feel like a stranger in Iraq. It felt like everybody was my family. We could hardly communicate with each other, but through their gestures, sign language, they were always there for me. And I never felt threatened. I never felt a stranger, scared, lost. There were always people helping me, comforting me, taking care of me, giving me company when I'm sitting alone. So that really changed my perception of pilgrimage. And I think whoever keeps going back to these cities and they meet new pilgrims, they meet people from different cultures, this is what they learn. That even while being total strangers, we do not feel like strangers there. So there is a lot of learning from Arbaeen. It's a very unique event. It's unbelievable that millions of people are fed for free for these days. They can drink as much tea as they want, as much coffee as they want. They get all kinds of services absolutely free. Now Arbaeen is in August, but already medical teams from Pakistan, they are forming their groups. They will go there for 20 days and volunteer there. So imagine the kind of volunteerism we see there. And this is the learning that comes back to us. And in the UK, Europe's largest Arbaeen is hosted in London, where we see similar practices. Arbaeen also is organized in Pakistan, where people walk on foot. They go to these processions where it's very difficult for the Shia community to practice openly. The mobile phones are shut, the transportation is closed, but people are trying to practice everything they learned from Arbaeen of Iraq and they implement here. And it's not just about remembrance of Imam Hussein, it becomes part of their daily lives, how to take care of others, the sense of volunteerism, that sense of service and purity. So yes, it always comes back. And in terms of my PhD, I'm exploring ideas at this point. I'm really interested in pursuing something related to the Green Pilgrims, and maybe coming up with a PhD that helps me make use of this exposure, this knowledge, this experience, and benefit the local communities there in some way. Yeah.
So how do you think a PhD would help you? Wouldn't in the sense that you are so much in the activism, and you are rolling this ball. and turning this positive spiral. Maybe, yeah, it's interesting that you want to do an academic contribution as well. Yeah.
I think research is very important in terms of creating policy level change. And also the PhD could also be partially about maybe creating a documentary, maybe creating a form of media that helps me communicate this idea with larger audience in more effective way. So it can be blend of both things, which I think can be more impactful in terms of academic research, in terms of creating more effective communication, I think.
And the other thing I wanted to hear you to talk before we go to the proper questions by everyone in the room is this the challenges you faced, and because you are so positive as a personality as well, and of course the outcome of what you do. But yeah, it surely wasn't that easy, everything. And so what were the most, and what are the most difficult things, and how did you, and are you overcoming them?
I look positive at this point because initially I used to get very disappointed because I could not do anything beyond just speaking about it, writing about it, sending emails, sending proposals. So I used to get very disappointed, and there were at least 2 times in these 5 years where I thought that, okay, I have done whatever I could. There's no way forward. I can't continue doing this, because there was a lot of my own emotional investment in this project. But then, my community is so wonderful, this volunteer community. They reminded me of the story of Hazrat Ibrahim, that when this fire was lit for him, there was a bird carrying water in its beak. And it said that, that at least my conscience will be clear when Allah asks me on the day of judgment that what did you do when you saw this fire being lit? And they told me that yes, the plastic problem is huge, and you might not even succeed, but you just need to keep doing what you can.
Thank you very much, Zahra. I think you taught us a lot already today at many levels, and I know Bianca had a project also about influential women in Islam today. So you are surely one of them, and model in many ways to, I guess, to all of us in some respect. Well, Bianca, do you have a question you want to ask?
I saw one hand, one virtual.
Then I think let's conclude. Yes, let's conclude the recording.
Yeah.
I'll stop the recording, yeah. And then I thank for everyone for your patience, and now we will have time to ask your questions and listen.
Yeah, I see Ali has a question, and also there was Zainab. She had her hand up, okay, but I cannot see it anymore. So if she can ask the question, I think that she has unmuted herself. So Zainab, please ask your question.
Hello. Just a second, I stopped the recording.
Yeah, just we stopped the recording. Yeah.